Hey guys, this will be video 14 for the how to design build a 50 Explorer replica. And I'm going to try to keep this video really short so it will upload fairly quickly. And then I probably will follow up after this short video with a more thorough video talking about the construction of the guitar. But the guitar is finished, it's ready to ship. And primarily in this video, I'm just going to do kind of, like your general flyby. So let's just do that. I won't talk too much. I broke a string, brand new strings. I've never had this happen before. It's a really nice set of elixirs, but it blew apart at the little eyelet. I've never seen one do that. I've seen them break at the bridge, but it did not break at the bridge. Anyway, so that's why it's only got 5 strings on it, and I don't have one long enough to string it up until I get a new set. I got playing some blues and some jazz and some funk a little while ago, and I was doing some heavy bending, and it just blew apart. Again, I've never had that happen, but it's just positively beautiful. Unfortunately, this is the 3rd video that I've done. The first 2 videos I intentionally just made them very short to do sample videos to try to get the lighting accurate, and I've added an extra little light overhead with a different bulb in it to assure that it doesn't come off real yellow, golden yellow. It's not, it's very blonde. It may look golden yellow over here because the lights that are to my left, but nonetheless I'm just trying to get it as visually accurate as possible. But guitar is really beautiful. In the last 2 videos I was doing the sampling, I got to talking about the flame and how all of the flame is so frustrating because I simply just cannot get it to show up on the camera the way it truly looks in person. This flame is right at the verge of being like a bird's eye figure. It's not bird's eye. It is flame, but whatever pattern is going on, it's going on an angle right here. Well, that pattern carries into the neck as well. In other words, if you recall in the early videos, I was very careful about gluing these body lines up so that figure did not change. It would have been really unsightly if this figure had been going this way and that one was going that way, and then you've got all these trapezoidal lines that define the perimeter of this guitar. That would have been really unattractive. So when I was carrying the flame up into the neck, I made certain that the neck came out of the boards just the way it grew in the wild, so that the figure is still going on that same pitch. And that way, when you're turning the guitar and you start looking at change in color and chatoyancy, it remains very consistent. And I'm going to stop talking about that stuff because that'll put you to sleep. That's really boring, except for the true woodworker types. But you guys already know that stuff. So nonetheless, it's really beautiful, really, really beautiful, and positively stunning as far as the design goes. Just very long and graceful. Just a beautiful guitar. Very difficult build. I won't say it was hard, but it was extremely humbling. I knew it was not going to be easy, but I think it probably could just be narrowed down to the fact that as I was transferring the design from paper to wood, which is extremely expensive wood, man, I was second guessing everything and referring back to pictures online of vintage guitars and verifying, hey, is this really, the pitch, are all these things correct and accurate? The radius here, is that all accurate within respect to historical? And it was. He did a phenomenal job designing the guitar. Electric Herald is the website. So did a phenomenal job. The only thing that he did incorrectly was these were positioned about a 1/16 of an inch too high up. I lowered them down, cleaned it up more towards the vintage specs, and that should be around a minimum of a half of an inch from the edge to the center. And I typically sometimes even go as far as 9/16 of an inch if I'm using like a really large Grover Imperial, like the jazz tuners. Sometimes I'll step them into 9/16 of an inch. Anyway, beautiful guitar. Frets are polished. It plays like a dream. I mean, just unbelievable. And let me check the time on the camera because I may just end the video. All right, we're only at 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Let's talk about the guitar a little bit. I'll keep this around 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll upload this video, and then we'll transfer from there. One of the things that I had mentioned in the last video, which I'll go ahead and cover this probably twice, not only in this video, but in the follow-up video. But what I meant by, let me just, even if I've already covered it, I'll just cover it again. So if I'm being redundant, at least that way I'll know that I covered it. When I started working with the designs from the Electric Herald, and he even mentioned on his drawings, hey, make note that the scale, meaning the distance from the nut to the bridge, is inaccurate compared to historical. It was only for reference purposes. What that tells me is he was smart enough to let everyone know that whatever scale you go with, make certain that you understand that you've got to re-engineer this pick guard. And that's exactly what I did. When I re-engineered everything, I ended up adding close to 1/8 of an inch. Well, I think it was exactly 4 millimeter. It was quite a bit. And then back here, I cut off 4 millimeter. So had you have just X-Acto knifed this off of the plans, put it on your, plywood. Well, let's see the difference here. This will show you the variation. See, if you had have just put that on your plywood and just cut out your plywood, well, then when you started putting it on your guitar, you would have had a 4 millimeter gap right there, and it would have been too. You would have had a gap all the way around. And when I engineered everything, it's 100% precise. Even the radius here is 1/4 of an inch around the around the pickup ring. So you really can't see daylight, or you can't see the color behind it. It's just really beautiful. Turned out good. And to me, those are the things that truly define a custom build, rather than just ordering something off of online. And basically you cannot buy these online because they're vintage correct. They have a pitch on them, the 70s model, and if you did that, anyone would look at that and go, yeah, it's just a parts guitar. But when you look at this right here, and you see that straight connection right there, this distance here, the fact that this is beveled here, beveled here, beveled, 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 and then it's flat around in here. And it was even called for a flat right here, but I stepped in, and on the very, very top edge, I changed over to a different bit, and I put an 18-degree bevel just across the top to kind of keep it from looking so unfinished. So it's really beautiful. But had you have, just cut that out with scissors, you would have been wrong. This took about a day and a half just to build the template. And then once I did all the routing, it was extremely fast, because you're working this out and then you're fitting it. You're looking at the pickup ring locations and the radius here and all that jazz. And then once you are prepared, then you take your, your material. I don't know where, because I think that would be it right there, somewhere in there. Oh yeah, because right there is the control cavity cover, and then up there is the little output jack cover. So it was a good use of the material, but you know, custom made. I think those the blanks right there are about $20, $25, give or take. So you could do two. You could do multiple different patterns with it. And then see, I even did the. This is pretty important, and then I'll stop getting so technical because I'm contradicting what I said I was going to do. Basically, that's the ledge, you know, for the back. It's not the internal cutout. It's the ledge. So I knew that that was the correct dimension right there for the outer cover. So then it was just a matter, you know, of transferring this onto your plywood, cutting that out, and then literally fitting it, and then making certain that you have it identified what is up, what is down. In the event there was something funky, that it was just a half a millimeter more narrow down here than it was up here, it's no big deal. As long as it fits well visually, it will be beautiful. And then you identify it, and then you just, you know, you route it out. Again, it takes longer to make these than it does to do the build. And that's how, take a nice little look at this. That's the little piece that I used to make the output jack. It's just the correct width, and then everything is worked off of center lines. And then by the time you do come in and put your masking tape down and your jet glue, and then you do your route work, it's literally, again, it takes longer to build this and verify that everything's the correct width than it does to actually make the actual jack plate. Because this little jack plate here is, it doesn't have any bevel. And I looked at all the vintage pictures and even the replacement ones online. They do not have bevel on them. They are square. So that's S4S cut right there. Turned out really good. And it's cool because it's vintage correct. Again, had you have ordered this online, it would have been rectangular because all the modern ones are rectangular. So, I mean, anyone looking at this guitar would be able to tell that that it is a custom built guitar, because I did the Les Paul style tenon. I did not take that tenon all the way back here like they did in the 50s. I personally think this is better. It leaves the body wood intact. And from a tonal standpoint, this thing is like a piano. It's amazing how resonant it is. And it just, there's no sense in playing it because it just doesn't pick up on the camera. And when I really dig into it and start playing really hard, it just sounds all compressed and more and like warbly or marbly or whatever the word would be. It's kind of like I think they call it a warble effect or warble effect, whatever. It's almost like a reverb on it. So I got too technical there. Let me check the time. 13 minutes. Yeah, I spent way too much time talking about that stuff, but it's pretty important. As I say, it's for a worthy cause. I'll just hold the guitar up. We'll do a little bit more of a flyby, and if possibly you weren't able to see anything in the last or in the start of the video, maybe you'll be able to see it in this one. Again, I'll end the video and then upload it, and then I'll come back and we'll pull these covers and we'll talk about some wiring and stuff like that. Well, I tell you what I'm going to do. In the event I don't do a second video, I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to go ahead and break down some of those things. And then there's a possibility I'll just do one video tonight, and that way I won't get too technical about the whole build. So let me pause. Okay, let's dive back in. I think I'm just going to do a traditional video, just the one video tonight, and it unfortunately may take about 2 to 3 hours for it to upload, but we'll just deal with that later on. Let's talk about control cavity. This is basically very similar to a Telecaster. And this is what I meant by, before I forget, I just got an identifying arrow on there that lets you know that's the front of the guitar. So anytime you're doing something and it's directional, just come in the back with a Sharpie. Okay, this is per vintage wiring specs that I found online, the wiring diagrams. But I just used a traditional orange drop for a Les Paul type or Explorer. They're fine. In other words, a humbucker. But you may want to change that according to the pickups that you go with. If you go with your traditional, Gibson type humbucker, then that'll be fine. But that's everything. That's truly going to define the whole guitar. So it's in there. It's wired in. It's ready to go. But if there's anything at this point you would want to change, it would be that, and you would put like a bumblebee or a oil and paper, a Russian cap or something like that. So anyway, ground wire connects all three, which was kind of unnecessary. Didn't really need to go beyond that point right there, but I did it anyway. The small wire here on the outside is the output jack wire, and it goes down and grounds. And then I've got heatsink protectors on there, so there's no way it could ground out. But in other words, it's finished. All it will need is, and I'm not going to say, anybody could do it, because the soldering is what it is. You can really make a mess if you don't know what you're doing when you're soldering. Let me see if I can get this in the camera. But all that remains is very simple. I mean, it's literally like a 5-minute job. Basically you're going to be using a wiring like that with a pushback. And the way I would recommend this going in here, I'll just put it in place, and then I'll see if I can get it to hold. I'm not going to be able to pick it up, but you can see how it does a horseshoe. Let me say you can. You might be able to. I'm going to hold the guitar up, and it's going to look like that right there. But I don't know if it's going to stay in place. So I'll do the best I can. I'll bend that. Where I'm going with this, a really good guitar tech that knows what they're doing, they'll be able to install the pickups of your choice within about 30 minutes to an hour. It'll be a very fast process. So that's how I would recommend doing the wiring path, and then this wire will leave some space and then fishtail back in like this. Now, obviously, it won't go in from this side. It'll be coming from up here, but nonetheless, it'll come out and then horseshoe around and go into place. And then the one that's for the bridge will just come straight out, maybe give a little bit of extra length. And then with that one, you simply run it straight and solder it to the back of the potentiometer. Again, it's very simple. I did not put any solder base in the middle, because a really, really good solder guy will be able to work off the solder that's already in place, but they may prefer to do their own solder. Okay, so she's ready to rock otherwise. And I actually did wire up the neck pickup, and I played it through my little Zoom, a little ToneWorks thing. Or no, it's not a Zoom, it's a Korg ToneWorks, and sounded amazing. Again, it's just amazing. Very, very, very throaty guitar. Okay, all right. So what else would I want to talk about as far as that stuff goes? I want to do some weight and balance, very quickly or briefly, and then we will talk about center lines, which I've already covered a little bit. Where's the? Let me just get connected here. I'll go straight to the finish line. It's a 9-pound guitar, which is positively perfect, perfect weight. Because this thing's huge. It's a big platform. And I will be the first to tell you, I was a little bit spooked on the front end that, oh my God, this thing's going to end up weighing 10 or 11 pounds. But didn't. Came in exactly, exactly right at 9 pounds. But I'll weigh it anyway. There's a lot of dust. Start out in pounds. Now, when I say 9 pounds, I mean finished. Let's see if that'll pick up. Yeah, nothing's touching out here. Oh, so much. I always struggle doing this weight. £8.398, 3,810 grams. Add a bridge pickup with an extra ring. Add a neck pickup and an extra ring. 3 little knobs, and then we'll put the cover back up there. 9.008 pounds. So by the time you pull these rings off, it'll be should be exactly 9 pounds. That's 4,086 grams. Perfect weight. Perfect weight. And the beauty, the reason, let me get back on the camera. The reason I want to do this weight and balance, the center line analysis, which I've already done this in the past. I want you to see how extremely well engineered this guitar is. It's not just a funky footprint, with some real wild, crazy lines. Because if you weren't careful, you could get this top wing way too heavy, and the guitar's just funky and feels really, really weird. But it doesn't. It hangs on your body so well. And I'm going to go straight at the finish line and tell you what's going to happen. Basically, straight down the middle, and I mean right down the center of the guitar, this baby's like an airplane. It's amazing. Now, I might not be able to do it. In other words, that center line point is not up here, or it's not down here. It's right in the middle of the guitar. And I won't be able to get it to float like an airplane or anything, but I will be able to show you that from a balance standpoint. That's pretty amazing. That's amazing. Okay, this thing is beautifully engineered. Now, I can't say that for every guitar that's ever come out of the factory, because the density of the wood could have a pretty serious bearing on a lot of those things. Like if you went with a mahogany that was extremely heavily figured, well, the body, all of this mass up here, it might cause it to be way heavy, and then that moves the center line off there. And then the cool thing about the actual, I'm going to have to move it forward because the headstock is pitching. Well, what I'm going to have to do is just let the headstock overhang on the table, and I'll go straight to the finish line and let you know that the center of gravity along this point, the headstock to the tail, is exactly 5/8 of an inch in front of the pickup ring. Okay. But let's see if we can get it to float, because it sure is cool looking. And where I'm going with this is, I'm gonna have to let that headstock come off the table. When this guitar is hanging on your person, across your shoulder, it doesn't feel crazy heavy, anywhere. It just feels beautifully balanced. Okay. So, and the reason I'm talking about this stuff, when you build your own custom guitar, whatever that guitar may be, you need to factor those points in. And if you want the guitar to feel like an authentic custom guitar and a truly high quality guitar, those are your balance points. Basically, the center of gravity would be in the center of the body and about a half of an inch in front of the pickup ring. It wouldn't matter if it moved forward another quarter of an inch or so, but if your center of gravity lands way up here, you're going to have a weird playing guitar, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Okay, especially if it's heavy. Or down here, if the center of gravity is way down here, then you're going to have a headstock diving. You know what? Oh, look at that. She's floating. She's actually floating right there. It's actually floating. That's so cool. You can't tell because of the wildcat fur. So, am I happy? Crazy happy. This is one of the best solid body guitar builds that I've ever accomplished. I'm very happy with it, not just from a visual standpoint, but from a tonal standpoint, weight and balance standpoint, you name it. Did I engineer it? Did I design it? No, it's not really anything that I did. Was I lucky with the wood? Maybe that's why they used the Korina, because it was such a lightweight wood. It just balanced out really well. But I do know that the newer guitars that they built that were mahogany, I'm sure they're fine as well. So check the time. 27 minutes. What else could I talk about? Because I'm really not going to spend any time talking about how to drill a hole and how to install a pickup ring. I think I already covered in enough detail about, and I apologize if this is redundant, but it's just because I did several sample videos. Just don't make any assumptions about, I'm almost certain I already covered this. Don't just take an X-Acto knife and scissors and cut out the pick guard from the drawings, because he even mentioned in his drawing that, hey, the scale was like 25-inch scale, and this is an authentic 24.75-inch scale. It's not a 24.562, and it's not a 25. It's not a 25 and a half. It's a vintage Gibson scale, and it feels like it too. It's got a sweet, soft, fast 60s profile neck. It's right at under 7/8 of an inch thick here, that's pretty thin, and I'm actually just slightly under 1 inch under 1 inch thick at the 11th fret. It feels like heaven. I mean, it's just amazing. So, and it reminds me of I had a mid 60s, I think it was a 64, 65 something SG when I was a kid that my brother had given me. And he was in a band. He was always bringing home really nice old Les Pauls and stuff like that. It wasn't a student guitar. It was a really nice SG. And this reminds me of that SG neck, except you don't have the headstock dive. So anyway, I'll end the video there. It's ready to ship, so I'll send you some info, Sam, about that. I'll just go straight to the target or the finish line and say I did talk to UPS, and if you prefer, UPS will allow you to pay shipping over the phone. over the phone, so I can box her up, get it ready to go, and then you can, once it's shipping, then they could contact you, and then you could give them your info over the line. Or if you prefer, I'll get an estimate for the shipping quote, and then I'll add that to the final invoice, and then we'll go from there. So I think we should be in good shape. She's ready to ship. And the only thing I haven't done, I completely forgot to mention, is I haven't drilled and I haven't epoxied in the little locations, and I'm going to be doing that tonight. So I just wanted to get this video up and loaded and up and running so that we could show a finished guitar. Very interesting project. Would I build it again? I wouldn't recommend this being your first build, and I wouldn't recommend it being your fifth build even. But again, that tenon work, getting all of that perfectly true, is not for the faint at heart. And if you miss the pitch on that neck, you'll really lose that height right there. And what you see visually is exactly what you see on the 50s guitars. It's about an eighth of an inch clearance below the bottom of the thumb wheel, and man, she feels really good. I know it's probably not picking up the sustain. It's still sustaining. It's still sustaining, and I can hear it fade. It just faded. So I wish it would pick up on the camera, but it's amazing. So all right, I'll end the video there. I appreciate you guys checking in, and we'll go from there. I'll see you guys in the next video.